Have you noticed how nothing feels good anymore? Not your phone, not food, not success, not even the things you once craved. You scroll endlessly, searching for something, anything, that sparks even a fraction of excitement. But it never comes. Just a dull, empty loop. Again and again. Here's the truth no one tells you. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are overstimulated. Your brain has been flooded with so much artificial pleasure that it has forgotten how to feel real pleasure at all. And the more you chase it, the worse it gets. More scrolling, more entertainment, more stimulation, less satisfaction. This is not depression. This is dopamine desensitization. And if you're watching this right now, there's a high chance you're already trapped inside it. So before we go any further, I want you to do something simple. If you've ever felt like life is becoming numb, comment yes below, because what you're about to hear might change the way you see your entire life. Centuries ago, long before smartphones, before social media, before endless entertainment, there was a warrior who faced the exact same problem, surrounded by pleasure, temptation everywhere, access to everything most men would lose themselves in, and yet he remained completely untouched, not because he resisted pleasure, but because pleasure had no control over him. He had trained his mind to a level where desire itself obeyed him. What he discovered wasn't just discipline, it was a system, a brutal, ancient method that forces your brain to reset, rebuild, and become immune to addiction. And once you understand it, you will never look at pleasure the same way again. Chapter 1. The Awakening. The night was loud. Laughter echoed through the tavern, cups slammed against wooden tables, music filled the air. Ren sat in the center of it all, surrounded by celebration. Victory was his. Just hours earlier, he had defeated a skilled opponent in combat. His body was sharp, his technique flawless, and now he was rewarded. Warm sake burned smoothly down his throat. Rich food filled his stomach. Beautiful distractions pulled at his attention from every direction. His senses were alive, overloaded, electrified. For a moment, he felt powerful, alive, complete. But the next morning, everything collapsed. Ren woke up in silence. No music, no laughter, no stimulation, and something felt wrong. The same world, but colorless. Food tasted bland. Training felt heavy. Even the air felt empty. It was as if something inside him had been drained overnight. He tried to shake it off, so he returned to the tavern that night. Again the pleasure came, the same rush, the same temporary high, and again, the next morning, emptiness. This time, deeper. He repeated the cycle. Pleasure, crash, chase, deeper crash. Each time the reward felt weaker, and the emptiness felt stronger, until one evening, as he sat alone staring into a half-empty cup, a quiet voice broke through the noise. "You are not enjoying pleasure," an old monk said calmly. "You are being consumed by it." Ren frowned. "I am in control," he replied. "I can stop whenever I want." The monk looked at him, not with judgment, but certainty. "Then stop," he said. 30 days, no alcohol, no indulgence, no stimulation, just simplicity. A pause. Then the final blow. If you cannot walk away, you were never in control to begin with. That night, for the first time, Ren didn't feel powerful. He felt trapped, and deep down, he knew the monk was right. Chapter 2. The Breaking Point. Day 1 was easy. Ren woke up, drank water, trained as usual. No alcohol, no distractions, no indulgence. A strange calm followed him throughout the day. Asterisk. Maybe the monk was wrong. Asterisk, he thought. Asterisk. Maybe I really am in control. Asterisk. Day 2 was different. His body was fine, but his mind, restless. Thoughts began to creep in. Asterisk. A small drink wouldn't hurt. Asterisk. Asterisk. You earned it. Asterisk. Asterisk. Why suffer for no reason? Asterisk. He ignored them. Day 3. Everything changed. The silence became unbearable. Training, once sharp and engaging, now felt slow, heavy, meaningless. His focus shattered into fragments. His mind kept reaching outward, searching for stimulation that wasn't there. Food lost its taste. Time moved painfully slow. Even sitting still felt like torture. By nightfall, his thoughts were no longer whispers. They were demands. Asterisk. Just one cup. Asterisk. Asterisk. Just one moment of pleasure. Asterisk. Asterisk. End this discomfort. Asterisk. Ren clenched his fists. For the first time, he realized something terrifying. He wasn't choosing. He was reacting. The urge didn't feel optional. It felt like survival, and that's when it hit him. This wasn't about alcohol. This wasn't about pleasure. This was dependence. On day 5, his body felt fine, but his mind was screaming. He paced like a caged animal, sat down, stood up again, tried to meditate, failed within seconds. There was no peace, only craving. By day 7, he sat outside alone, staring at a simple bowl of rice. Days ago, he would have rejected it. Now, it was all he had. He took a bite. Nothing. No taste. No satisfaction. No pleasure. Just fuel. And in that moment, something inside him cracked. Not physically, but mentally. He finally understood. His brain had been trained to expect intensity, and without it, life felt empty. Not because life was empty, but because he had lost the ability to feel it. This was the truth the monk wanted him to face. He wasn't removing pleasure. He was exposing addiction, and there was no escaping it now. Only one way forward. Through it. Chapter 3. The First Shift. By the second week, something strange began to happen. The cravings didn't disappear, but they changed. They were no longer sharp commands. They became distant echoes. Still there. Still present. But weaker. Ren noticed it first during training. His body moved through familiar forms, slow and repetitive. Days ago, this felt unbearable. His mind would have screamed for something more stimulating, something faster, something rewarding. But now, there was space. For the first time, he could feel the movement itself, the weight of the sword in his hands, the tension in his muscles, the rhythm of his breath. Nothing extraordinary had changed, but everything felt slightly different, slightly clearer. On day 10, he sat with his bowl of rice again. Same meal, same simplicity. But this time, there was something, a faint taste, subtle, almost unnoticeable, but real. He paused, took another bite. This time, he focused, and suddenly, it wasn't just food. There was texture, warmth, a quiet satisfaction he hadn't felt in days. It wasn't intense, it wasn't overwhelming, but it was enough, and that was new. By day 14, the world began to return. Not louder, not brighter, but deeper. The wind against his skin felt refreshing. Cold water in the morning felt alive. Even silence no longer felt empty. It felt full. This was the turning point. Ren began to understand what was happening inside him. His brain, once flooded with constant stimulation, had been forced into silence. At first it resisted, then it broke, and now it was rebuilding. Without constant dopamine spikes, his mind had no choice but to adapt. Receptors that had been numbed began to wake up. Sensitivity returned, and with it, something he hadn't felt in a long time. Genuine pleasure, not the explosive kind that disappears in hours, but a quiet, steady sense of satisfaction. The kind that doesn't demand more, the kind that doesn't leave you empty. Ren realized something most people never do. Pleasure was never the problem. Dependence was. And for the first time in his life, he wasn't chasing anything. He was simply experiencing it. Chapter 4. The Principle of Control. By the third week, Ren was no longer fighting his mind. He was observing it. The cravings still appeared. But now, they no longer felt like commands. They felt like signals, and for the first time, he didn't obey them. He studied them. A thought would arise. Asterisk. Drink something. Find pleasure. Escape this moment. Asterisk. But instead of reacting, he paused. He watched the urge rise, peak, and slowly fade. And in that simple act, something powerful happened. He realized a truth most people never see. Desire is temporary, but reaction is a habit. All his life, the two had been fused together. Desire appeared, action followed instantly. No space, no control. Now, That space existed, and inside that space was freedom. One afternoon, while training, Ren felt a sudden urge to stop. His body was tired. His mind whispered, asterisk, that's enough. You've done enough. Asterisk. Before, he would have listened. But now, he delayed. Just a little. One more movement, one more breath, one more repetition, and something unexpected happened. The discomfort didn't grow. It transformed. The resistance turned into focus. The fatigue turned into rhythm. He wasn't forcing himself anymore. He was moving through it. This was the second lesson. Control is not about suppressing desire. It's about delaying response. Because in that delay, the brain changes. Instead of short spikes of dopamine followed by crashes, it learns to stretch the experience, to hold tension, to build anticipation, and that anticipation becomes its own form of reward. Ren began applying this everywhere. When he felt thirsty, he waited. When he felt hungry, he paused. When he wanted distraction, he stayed still, not to suffer, but to train. Day by day, his mind stopped demanding immediate satisfaction. It became calmer, sharper, more obedient, and for the first time, his actions were no longer controlled by impulse. They were chosen. This is where most people fail. They try to remove desire completely. But that's impossible. Desire is part of being human. The real power is in mastering the moment between desire and action, because that moment is where discipline is built, and where freedom begins. Chapter 5. The Power of Less. By the fourth week, Ren expected life to feel empty without stimulation, but the opposite happened. Life became richer, not louder, not more exciting, but more real. He woke before sunrise. No noise, no distractions, just silence. And for the first time, that silence didn't feel uncomfortable. It felt peaceful. He stepped outside. Cold air touched his skin. The sky slowly shifted from darkness to light. A simple moment, something he had experienced thousands of times before. Yet now, it felt different. He wasn't rushing through it. He was inside it. During training, every movement carried weight. Every breath had rhythm. There was no need for music, no need for external motivation. The act itself was enough. And that was new. Ren began to understand the third principle. Pleasure is not created by intensity. It is created by sensitivity. Before, his life was filled with high stimulation, rich food, loud environments, constant excitement. But because everything was intense, nothing stood out. His brain had adapted, raised its threshold, demanded more, just to feel less. Now, everything had changed. His baseline had dropped. Simple meals became satisfying. Silence became calming. Movement became meaningful. Not because the world changed, because he did. He realized something most people never question. If you need extreme stimulation to feel good, you've already lost. Because now, your happiness depends on something outside of you, and the moment it's gone, so is your peace. But when you train yourself to enjoy simplicity, everything becomes a source of pleasure. You don't need more. You experience more from less. Ren tested this. One evening, after nearly a month of deprivation, he allowed himself a small reward, a single cup of sake, nothing more. The effect was immediate. The taste was sharper, deeper, almost overwhelming. What once felt ordinary now felt powerful. And that's when it became clear. The goal was never to eliminate pleasure. It was to restore its power. Because when your system is clean, you don't need excess. A little becomes enough. And enough becomes everything. Chapter 6. The Edge of Mastery. Most people would have stopped there. They would have felt the return of pleasure, the clarity, the control, and believed they had mastered themselves. But Ren understood something deeper. Control that only exists in comfort is not real control. So he went further. Not because he needed to, but because he chose to. He began removing not just harmful pleasures, but even the natural ones. Not permanently, but deliberately. Days without speaking, nights on hard ground instead of a bed, long hours without food, even when food was available. Not as punishment, as training. At first it made no sense. Why deny what is good? Why reject comfort when you've already regained control? But the answer revealed itself slowly, because true mastery is not tested when things are easy. It is revealed when you times can have something, but choose not to. Asterisk. One night, hunger came stronger than usual. His body demanded food. His mind offered justification. Asterisk. You've trained enough. You've earned this. Asterisk. Ren sat still. He didn't fight the hunger. He didn't distract himself. He simply stayed with it, watched it, felt it fully, and then something unexpected happened. The hunger passed. Not completely, but enough. Enough for him to realize he was not controlled by it. The same happened with comfort. Cold nights, hard ground. At first, resistance. Then, acceptance. Then, indifference. What once felt unbearable became normal. What once controlled him lost its power. This was the final shift. Ren no longer needed pleasure to feel good, and he no longer feared discomfort. He had stepped beyond dependence in both directions, because most people live trapped between two forces, chasing pleasure, avoiding pain. Ren stood outside both. He could experience pleasure without attachment. He could face discomfort without resistance. And in that space, there was absolute freedom, not because life became easier, but because nothing could control him anymore. This is where discipline becomes identity, not something you force, something you are. And once you reach this point, the world no longer dictates how you feel. You do. Chapter 7. The Return. 30 days later, Ren walked back into the same world that once controlled him. Nothing had changed. The tavern was still loud. The food was still rich. The distractions were still everywhere. But he was not the same. He sat at the same table, the same cup placed in front of him, the same environment designed to pull him in, to hook his attention, to trigger the endless cycle he once couldn't escape. This time, he didn't reach for it. Not because he was resisting, because he didn't need it. That was the difference. Before, pleasure had power over him. It called, and he responded. Now, it was silent. He picked up the cup slowly, took a single sip. The taste was intense, clear, almost overwhelming. But there was no urge for more. No pull, no craving, just experience. And then, stillness. Around him, others chased the same feeling he once did. More drinks, more noise, more stimulation. But he could see it now. The pattern. They weren't enjoying it. They were escaping. Escaping silence. Escaping discomfort. Escaping themselves. And the more they escaped, the more trapped they became. Ren placed the cup down. For the first time, he understood what true freedom felt like. It wasn't avoiding pleasure. It wasn't rejecting the world. It was being able to step in and step out, without losing yourself, to enjoy, without attachment, to experience, without dependence. That is what most people never reach, because they never stop long enough to reset. They keep consuming, chasing, numbing, until nothing feels real anymore. But the path is simple, not easy, but simple. Remove the noise, endure the discomfort, restore your sensitivity, and what you gain is something most people spend their entire lives chasing. Control, not over the world, but over yourself. So now the question is not whether this works. The question is, will you do it? If you're ready to take back control, comment 1 below, because awareness is where it begins. But action is what sets you free. And remember, the enslaved man needs constant stimulation. The free man creates his own. And now, you understand. The problem was never your lack of discipline. It was your environment, your habits, the constant flood of stimulation that slowly rewired your brain without you even realizing it. You didn't lose your motivation. You lost your sensitivity. And without sensitivity, nothing feels worth doing. That's why you procrastinate. That's why you feel empty after achieving something. That's why you keep searching, but never feel satisfied. Because your brain has been trained to expect more while giving you less. But here's the truth. You can reverse it, not by adding more, but by removing what's unnecessary, by stepping away from constant stimulation, even for a short time, by allowing your mind to feel discomfort again, without escaping it. Because that discomfort is not your enemy. It is the doorway, The moment you stop running from it, your brain begins to reset. Your clarity returns, your focus sharpens, your ability to feel comes back. And it doesn't take years. It starts with a decision, a small one. Maybe today, you delay one urge. Maybe tonight, you put your phone away earlier. Maybe tomorrow, you sit in silence instead of seeking distraction. That's how it begins, not with perfection, but with awareness, followed by action. So before you leave, ask yourself one honest question. What is controlling me right now? And if you're ready to take that control back, comment yes, because writing it down is the first act of awareness, and awareness is where transformation begins. Remember this, pleasure is not the enemy, but dependence is, and the moment you break that dependence, you don't just feel better, you become free. The choice is yours, and only action will turn this into reality.